Hi, my name is Tiberius. I'm an affiliate of Sensorica. Today I want to talk about a topic that I had in mind for a long time, and I think this is the time to put it out there. It is about election, it's about voting. And since we are now, again, in the middle of the political theater, I think it's appropriate to address it. So when it comes to politics, when it comes to elections, there are different behaviors. People react to election in a different way. And here are two behaviors that you might find odd, but that give you an insight into what is going on today with our political system, with our social governance, essentially. So here's the two stories. And the first one is mine. It's more simple to understand. And the second one is of a friend of mine. His name is Bruce Merrill. And you'll see he has a very interesting story. So my story is that I don't vote. Okay? Now, when I say that to my friends, a lot of people are saying, how come you're not voting? You're not participating, you're not in democracy, you're not participating in making society a better place. What if later, things go wrong? You're just going to complain. I guess you've heard that before. Well, there's many reasons why people don't vote. And we can identify a few of them. Some people don't vote because they can't. They physically can't. They can't walk to vote. They might have kids, they're too busy, they have jobs, they're caught in between things, and that particular day they can't go vote, or that week, or whatever the time may be. Some people don't vote because they simply don't care. They have something else to do. They rather have fun, parties. They don't think about politics, they just delegate that to other people. They go with the flow. And so they assume that things will go according to the past. We have always pulled it off somehow, and there's enough people that contribute to politics and get involved into the election that they don't have to vote. Okay. Another case, and I know a lot of people like that, people don't vote because they're disillusioned. They actually think that even if they vote, they don't make a difference. And sometimes you have the statistical argument, which is, well, I'm just one human being among tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands that will vote. And my vote is insignificant, therefore I don't make a difference. And the counter argument here is, well, but if everybody thinks like that, nobody will vote, right? So you have to make your contribution to voting. And other people think they cannot make a difference because they're disillusioned with political parties, with politics, and with politicians, because they think that they always get these promises before the election, and then during the election, things will, after the election, things will change. Politicians will not keep their promises. There are these systemic problems in our society, the way society is governed, the way interests are interacting with each other. There's no way we could change things into a better situation, right? So they're disillusioned. So essentially, this is a form of nihilism. Why vote when things never change, right? They do whatever they want, and well, it's not so bad in Canada compared to other countries. But even if I don't like things, I don't think politics is a way to change stuff. I don't think representative democracy is a way to change stuff. And you can find other reasons why people don't vote. I think these are the main ones that I encountered talking to people. But mine is different, and I'm not alone. Mine is a little further than just I am disillusioned with politics and I think it doesn't work. I think that the whole system of representative democracy that we have it's outdated. I don't want to say that it's bad in absolute terms, but it is outdated in the sense that it cannot keep with the demand of making policies and changing rules in our society. It cannot keep up with the advance of technology. It cannot keep up with the new realities that this technology brings into existence in our society. It cannot keep up with the changes at the global level in terms of geopolitics, in terms of immigration, in terms of environmental changes. I think we live in a time where things change so fast that these governance system that we put in place a few hundred years ago simply can't keep up with the pace of change. So I believe that representative democracy was probably good at some point to go from feudalism and monarchy to something that allows more freedom to individuals and more self-governance. But it was a step in that direction. I think we never reached that goal, but still not enough to represent or to fulfill the needs of our society in terms of policies and rulemaking. So that is my reason why I don't vote. It doesn't mean that if I don't vote, I don't do anything about it. I'm very involved, and some of you know me for what I do full time. I'm very involved in making change happen. I believe that I could make change happen not through the channel of politics, but through the channel of economics and community involvement. Okay, so I'm somebody that's heavily involved in change making, but totally not involved in politics as in going and vote for someone and participate in this democracy. And I would like to introduce another term for our governance system. We call it representative democracy, but we have to realize that this is in fact a competitive representative democracy. And we'll probably have some time later to talk about why I call it competitive. So here's the story of my friend Bruce. Now, let's find Bruce, if you don't know who he is. You might have seen Bruce in one of the Sensorica's videos as a Sensorica affiliate.
Actively use any form of the soil moisture sensors.
And you might have seen Bruce in a movie called The New Economy that you can find on Netflix. Again, with the Sensorica network. And you might have seen him in Verdun on the ground, doing a lot of work with different political parties, with the community involved in an organization called the Main Verdun, and so on and so on and so on. Bruce is a very active individual when it comes to community projects, community initiatives, community involvement, and also during the election, Bruce is very busy as well. Now, here's the story of Bruce. So I am the one that doesn't vote. Bruce is the one that helps every party during the election. He volunteers with every party during every election, municipal, provincial, or federal. And he votes. So in the end, he chooses the party or the candidate that he likes the most. But during the election period, Bruce is volunteering with all the parties. He does door-to-door, he does phone calls for these candidates. He goes to events to participate. Here, the two odd behavior that you might think they're odd. And they're not so strange. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't vote. It turns out that the average voting turnover in Canadian election, it's about 70%. So you have 30% of people that actually don't vote. That's a lot of people. But Bruce's behavior, it's not so common. There's not a lot of people that engage with all the political parties during the election and volunteers and helps them genuinely. So how does he explain that? Well, Bruce says that he performs his civic duty. For Bruce, it is a civic duty to go help all the parties to be able to participate in election. So he does everything he can to get their message out so that people make an informed decision. It's not a crazy idea. Okay? But here's the thing. In both of these cases, Bruce and I and others like us transcend the competitive mode of our democracy. In my case, people that don't vote, we transcend the competitive mode of our democracy, which we call it a competitive representative democracy, by not engaging in the theater of the election, by not engaging in this competition among parties that divide us and try to pull us into their tribes, turn us against each other during the election time, try to sell us their idea, their ideology, their worldview, and pull us away from the other party, sometimes by smearing the other party. And by smearing the other party, they smear the people that vote for that party too. I mean, we saw that in the United States during an election, people be called deplorables. Okay? So in some cases, in some countries, it's the competition gets very vicious. In Canada, it's more civilized. But we have had episodes in our history when things were not so nice or fair play. And towards the end of the election, almost always the gloves come down and the rhetoric, the message becomes more harsh. So I refuse to get into that, because if we are about making our society a better place, I don't think we can achieve that by competing against each other. I think we can achieve that by collaborating. I refuse to play that game. I transcend that theater of competitive representative democracy by refusing to engage in it, because I think that is not the proper way to solve complex problems that we face today. And Bruce does it in another way, by engaging with all these parties. It's another way of saying, well, why are we competing? We should just propose ideas to people and let people choose among these ideas. Okay? He engages in the theater of politics, but he doesn't engage in the competition between parties. And most of the times, people don't understand him. People don't get that. People think he's crazy, going to all the political parties and doing volunteering work for them. That opens to something that is very fundamental in our society. Because we know today that we can do things differently without competing. Take, for example, Wikipedia. Wikipedia is not the theater of a competition, it's the theater of collaboration. So we say, there are some things on which we don't agree. There are some issues that are very tough. For example, take the situation between Palestinians and Israel. It's a very, very hot topic. There's a lot of people that will fight over the content of that page, because opinions are very polarized with anything in between. If you take a piece of content like that you're going to get a lot of divergence of opinions and a very complex mechanism for consensus building. But the whole thing is a collaborative endeavor. Why can't we just write laws and policies like that? To say, here we have a social problem. How do we reduce consumption of fossil fuel, for example, in Canada? How do we improve transportation in Canada? Here's a real problem. And then people come up with solutions. Engineers, people like you and I, on a tool like Wiki, and have good ideas bubble up. Have people start to experiment and prototype stuff, and have good ideas bubble up, and let the best idea win. This is not a contest of personality. We're not going to solve these problems by giving people the choice to vote among a few individuals, by presenting them a face of a candidate and talking about the personality of that candidate, and having people turn people against each other to vote for one candidate or for the other candidate. These are faces of individuals. We're not talking about ideas during the election. Everything is focused on electing that individual and not the other one. Look on the streets, look at the signs for elections. What do you see? You see faces. You vote for people. That's not the way to solve social problems. We need to propose ideas. We need to talk about ideas. We need to have ideas competing with ideas, and people collaborating to find the best idea, to find the best solution, to put it into practice and solve current problems. Right? So it is through collaboration, it is through co-creation, it is through having many opinions, many ideas, many worldviews put together towards solving a problem. That's the way we can solve and deal with the issues that we have today. It's not by dividing people and inciting them to vote for one individual or the other one. And then these individuals go there and they play their representative democracy game, and we know how that is when you're a politician and all these interests, financial and economic interests in the background, and how everything happens and how promises are broken. All right? So by not voting in the election, essentially what I'm saying is, well, that governance doesn't work, it's outdated. I'd rather not participate in that and just go and do real work in the community and try to put in place different economic systems that one day might become dominant to change the logic of how the world works. And Bruce although is doing the same thing, the way he engages in politics is not by not voting, but by contributing to all the parties and making sure that voters have enough information to make a smart decision based on the platform, based on the ideas that are projected by these political parties and candidates. Obviously, it's not enough. But what we see here is, the trend here is that people are slowly realizing that something else needs to be put in place. That when we talk about an economic revolution that is going on today, talking about the peer-to-peer economy, talking about commons-based peer production, network-type organizations, the fourth sector, so on and so forth. Well, the economy has to come with its own governance system, its own way for society to make policies and rules. So we're at the point where we're realizing that competitive representative democracy is outdated. And some people are starting to adopt a different behavior towards representative democracy. And in my opinion, there will be more and more people like Bruce and more people like I am, as more and more people will start to become disillusioned with how politics works and how our governance is set up. So I hope we learned something from these two stories. There's one person who doesn't vote and another person that votes and helps every political party. And this year is the first time that I decided to follow Bruce in his path and adopt a more pragmatic strategy. Since I'm doing what I'm doing with Sensorica and other organizations, trying to put in place new economic systems, trying to change society through economy, I decided to help politicians that push things in our direction. I decided to participate in the campaign. I'm not sure if I'm going to vote yet. I never voted in my life, and I don't know if I'm going to vote this year. I'm not decided. But I decided to help those politicians, help those in power that help us. So the approach that I'm taking now is, let's stop criticizing political parties and be careful not to get trapped into this competitive dynamic of politics where they turn us against each other because they want to win votes. Okay, and then we're against the other parties because we have these tribal instincts taking over. We're part of that party, right? We're a team, we're part of that party, and these are the others. Okay, instead of going into that mind frame, why don't we think that every political party has people in it that think like us? Every political party has individuals that would move the system a little closer to what we want to achieve. In every political party, there is people like that. And so I realize, looking at my behavior towards the elections and towards voting, and Bruce's behavior towards voting, I realize that it is better for us to identify in every political party those who can further our agenda, those who are helping us, and try to help them to win. What we want to do is to increase the concentration in all the political parties of these people that think like us, instead of focusing on one political party or the other. And slowly work that our core values are adopted in that sphere of politics so that governance can change one day to reflect the current society. It's like saying there is no politician that would be openly against free speech. But there was a time when free speech was debated in politics. Okay? Now, all the political parties agree on free speech. It is a value that has been widely adopted. There is no debate now against or for free speech. It is assumed to be the norm. And that's what we need to achieve. Things that are obvious about our future. We need to raise them to the awareness of these politicians. We need to inject them in all these political parties to achieve some level of consensus. And through that, we leverage a political change. And it's not just implementing a new program. What I'm talking about here is really going ahead and induce some systemic changes. So I hope you like this reflection. I hope you learned something about how people decide to act during the election. We might be not normal, but we are there and we're not alone. We are the symptom of a problem. If you don't agree, at least look at it this way. And I invite you to revise your attitudes towards the election. And if possible, try not to get trapped into this competitive dynamic, this division of the people during this period. Thank you very much, and hope to find you in the next video.